Missouri at Georgia. The Tigers are going to play the Dogs between the hedges. Georgia is a 15.5 point favorite. The over-under is set at 54.5. So I feel like we've seen Georgia in a lot of games this year that the total was in the 40s. This one going all the way up to 54.5. This I feel like this matchup comes down to Carson Beck, this group of wide receivers, obviously Brock Bowerless. I think that matchup versus this Missouri secondary is going to be what dictates this game, much like the Georgia-Florida game last week. Missouri, if you kind of want to get a little snapshot of them, they've lost one game this year, and it was to a team that really just did whatever they wanted to do on offense. They lost 49-39 to LSU. And as I said, Jaden Daniels and company just pretty much did whatever they wanted to. I think Malik Neighbors was one that had, I want to say, like 200 yards receiving in that game, something like that. But you can kind of look back at these games. They beat South Carolina 34-12, Kentucky 38-21, Vanderbilt 38-21. Memphis 34-27. This offense is one that is decent, has some weapons. Luther Burden has emerged. Welcome to the big show. Luther Burden probably going to go over 1,000 yards for the season in this game right here.
Yeah.
And that's somebody that Georgia's going to have to account for, no doubt about it. But this secondary versus this Georgia offense, I'm worried about it for them. I think this game can get out of hand for Missouri very, very, very quickly in this game. I think that barring Missouri running the ball for 250 yards in this game or something that I just cannot see coming, I think Georgia just totally just cakewalks them right here. I think Georgia can win this game by 17 or 21 points, Mason.
Yeah.
I just again, I think this is a bad matchup, and I think that Georgia's defense is starting to come together. I mean, if you can all imagine the defense that we've seen for the first part of the season, while it hasn't been outstanding, has been very much serviceable, and I would consider good. But it looks like they're starting to take some steps towards being great. And I'm interested to see if that progresses this week against an offense that I think is pretty good. One of the better offenses that Georgia has faced this year. You really want to think about it, this probably is the best offense Georgia has faced this year. So I think both of these teams are seeing a high level of competition here, and I think Missouri probably just needs to be happy with the year that they've had, because I don't foresee any way that they win this game. Like I said, barring running the ever living hell out of the ball and keeping the ball away from Georgia and being able to move the sticks like 25 to 30 first downs type of thing, or Georgia just turns into a turnover machine. And it seems like Georgia is working on cleaning that stuff up, as they didn't have any turnovers at all, or fumbles that they jumped on, anything like that. So looking like Georgia's heading in the right direction. Missouri as well, but just give me those Dogs, and I'm laying the points. I'm not just kind of a news flash. I'm not betting on this game. I'm not putting any money on this game. This conference game right here, I'm not betting 15.5 points on either side here, because, like I said, I feel good about Georgia, but that's just a bunch of points, man. There's a lot of things that can happen in college football. But regardless, I definitely see Georgia getting the win here. What's your thoughts on this one? And what's some kind of keys to the game for each team?
Well, I don't think that it helps Missouri that they almost beat Georgia last year.
Yeah.
They should have just went ahead and did it, because I think Kirby's going to have these guys fired up. That's one thing that we've noticed with Georgia is not just this season, but at least the past 3 seasons, they show up for big games. Sometimes they play down to their opponent just a little bit. They kind of play with their food. They've been They've been known to do that, but in big games they show up, and this is a home game for Georgia, and one of the toughest home games that they're going to have. They've got this week. They've got Missouri coming. Then next week they've got Ole Miss coming. We'll see if Ole Miss can get past Texas A&M this week as to whether or not that's going to be a really big game. Which of course is going to be a big game, but you know what I mean. How big is it going to be? This week will dictate that for Ole Miss. But going back to this game, Mark, everybody's talking about how good Missouri's offense is. Do you know how many times Missouri has scored 40 or more points this season?
I actually do. Let's see, 0.
0 times, y'all. This is, and look, I'm guilty of it too. I do like their offense. I do think that they know who they are, and they know what they like. They know what they do, well, and it's getting the ball to Luther Burden, a lot of short throws. They find a way to get their running back involved, and he does pretty well for them as well. But I think that Missouri's got to get to 40 to win this game. I think Georgia, as good as their defense is, it's not the strength of this team. It's their offense. And Georgia is going to score 40 points in this game against Missouri. Missouri's defense is not that good to where they're going to stop Georgia from putting up 40. They're just not. And barring like 2 turnovers or more, which Georgia's capable of doing, but outside of that, I think that Georgia puts up at least 40. In order for Missouri to do that, I think they're going to need some help with turnovers and or special teams play. I think that's really what it's going to take. A good clean game from Missouri, of course, and can they shorten the field on special teams and get some really good returns, maybe even a return for a touchdown or something like that. I think it takes something like that for Missouri to stay in this game. Another key matchup that you can look at, if Georgia is bad at something, it's the red zone, right? They haven't really been that great at scoring in the red zone, and Missouri, on the contrary, they have been really good at scoring in the red zone. They're actually first in the country. They've had 35 attempts in the red zone. They've scored on 34 of them. And then, for touchdown efficiency in the red zone, they're at 68.57%, which is good for 30th in the country. So they do a pretty good job of scoring touchdowns when they get the opportunity. UGA, on the other hand, they're actually first in red zone attempts at 46. So they're getting there. Which I mean, you got to have at bats if you're gonna hit the ball. If you're gonna hit a home run, you got to have at bats. The more at bats you have, the more chances you have to hit a home run. But they've scored only on 42 out of those 46. So that's not exceptional by any stretch. It's not terrible either. But and they've had a touchdown on 63.04%. So my point in that is saying that Missouri has got to continue their red zone success, and they need to get a stop or two against Georgia, or at least limit the touchdowns. Make them kick a field goal. You do that 3 times in a game, that's 12 points taken off of their score, and you're in it if you're able to do that. So that's a key matchup that I think you should look at in this game. The other side of that, though, is that Georgia is 6th in attempts, given up. They've only allowed opponents in their red zone 17 times. So it's tough to get there. But if Missouri can get there, they've been really good at scoring and really good at scoring touchdowns as well. Outside of that, I think that if Missouri can do that, again, force Georgia to kick the field goals, convert touchdowns in the few red zone opportunities that they're going to get in this game, then that coupled with a couple of turnovers, sloppy game from Georgia, that's really the only path for success, I think, for Missouri in this game. But I think that Georgia's going to be fired up to play in front of a home crowd. I think that Athens is going to be roaring. And it's going to be unlike anything that we've seen all season in Athens. Give me the dogs big. I think that Georgia wins 41-20. and that would obviously lead to a cover from Georgia. I'm not rushing to bet this. If I were to bet, I would bet the over 54.5. I think that's a safer play. But just because of how well Georgia is at scoring, and that, look, they've been giving up, um, 13, 20 points a game. So, that alone, I think leads to a cover on the over. But anyways, yeah, I think that Georgia, kind of boat races Missouri in this game.
Yeah. I just think, again, a lot like last week, I think this Georgia matchup this week versus Missouri, um, kind of similarly like last week against Florida, I think the matchups, which is what football is all about, they're in the favor of Georgia. I see Georgia's strength matching up with some weaknesses, or not weaknesses, but strength on strength that would benefit Mizzou, and then Georgia's got some areas where they're going to have a strength on Mizzou's weakness.
Mhm.
So I'm interested to see Cook having to throw into this Georgia defense. That's
Yeah.
why I say I think the path for Missouri to win this ball game, I think, is being able to establish the run game. You're going to have to do better than 40% on third down in this game to win either team, I think. Um, and that's what Mizzou's averaging for the year. And it's going to have to be a game that they're going to have to play a little bit different if they want to win it. They're going to have to move the chains, and they're going to have to convert it on third. And for that to happen, you're not going to be able to throw incompletions first and second down. You're not going to be able to throw constantly against this Georgia team. I think you're going to have to be able to establish a run early on. Otherwise, Georgia's just going to pin their ears back. And Missouri's been good at protecting the quarterback this year. They haven't been bad. But if you are waiting for guys to be wide open in this secondary, then you're going to be waiting, and then you're going to be sacked.
Mhm.
So I think it's a bad matchup for Mizzou. Give me those dogs.